So, this is the next episode of All Apologies, Guilt and Blame. Episode 30. To continue my story, I got married not too long ago to an autistic man. And I can be honest and say that I care about him. I do. But there's a lot of responsibility. And I think that kind of overwhelms me. I am trying to do the best I can. His mom has dementia. And early this year, we chose to put her in a nursing home. Actually, I guess I chose to put her in a nursing home because she was very unhappy, extremely unhappy, and she had a right to be. Bobby is 68 years old. He struggles to communicate. He has a second alternate identity from the real Bobby. And I'm not saying he can't manage, because to some extent he can. But there is a lot, if you've listened to my podcast called Telling an Inconceivable Story, which is all about his life and ours together. Or if you've paid attention to this update that I'm doing, it's been challenging, extremely challenging. But I've known him for a good while, a few years actually, and I've lived with him over a year, and I married him because, as I previously said, there's a lot of responsibility, and Bobby has trouble with many different things. He is still managing to some extent, but there's a lot. There's an awful lot that is kind of inconceivable, just like in the podcast about him. How 1 minute he seems to be doing okay, and then the next minute you see such a decline. And I think a lot of that has to do with his autism, and a lot of it has to do with his alternate identity or his fake persona. He lives his life in a very hidden way, I guess you would say. He's never been an open person, but that probably has to do with his autism. He's just not like that. He is still in denial, and he struggles. I struggle. Sometimes I think I struggle more than he does, because as I previously said in the podcast, telling a friend of mine who is a doctor now, said, you know, he's autistic. He's got autism. He's 68 years old. He's not going to change. He can't. He's been doing things so long, and he's so kind of self-serving that he can't change. He can't adapt. And she said it would be better for me to somehow manage to realize that and to just take day by day, and if I, chose to walk away, that would be understandable. But if I did chose to stay, which she knew with my character and I guess my personality, she knew that I just couldn't see myself walking away. I am not young anymore. I actually will be turning 64 in just like 3 weeks. And she knew that I was driven, I guess, to stay and care for him and his mom and do what I can to clean up the house, take care of paperwork, take care of bills, take care of him, and be here because maybe I feel like there's a history between us and no one knows as much as I do. And I understand there's a reason for that. Like I said, I'm trying to update my story, trying to piece it together the best I can. I will turn 64 on Christmas Day, and it's hard. Life is hard. Being with Bobby is a challenge. Having a lot of this responsibility is not only a challenge, but it's also kind of gives me a purpose, I guess. Does that make any sense? I see it as kind of a challenge in a way to rise up and do what I have to do to make sure that everything goes right for him, his mom, for me. It's, for another word, indescribable, I guess. I babysit my grandson, and he's here, actually, sleeping at this moment. Bobby's in bed, and the house is quiet. And I get really kind of mopey and sad during Christmas season. I love it. It's my birthday. But I miss my family. I miss things that I barely have memories of anymore. It's not that I don't remember, it's just, it's been so long and things are so different. Me and one of my daughters was talking the other day about how different our family is compared to lots of other families. And I can really identify with that because the whole time I grew up and the whole time I was younger, I dreamed of a family that was welcoming and not dysfunctional. And if you've listened to my podcasts on my life, which there are 3 of them, Not a Victim, this one, and Losing Touch with Reality. I always wanted a good connection, a welcoming, loving family. And we had our good times. We did. I can remember when I was growing up, my grandfather and grandmother and my Uncle Larry and all of us. And I was young then. And I can remember later on when I started having kids, my kids, whatever husband I had at the time, especially my first husband. And big Thanksgivings, big Christmases, big holidays. But there was always like a disenchantment with things, a discord kind of thing, where we would try to get along, make the most of things, do small talk, but a lot of it just wasn't what it seemed to be. Not that we didn't love each other, it was just hard to talk about anything without striking a nerve with someone. It is what it is. Anyway, basically, me and my daughter, like I said, were talking. And my life, her life, our family, the dysfunction that we have is just something that we've, I think, all accepted. And things have changed. That is true. My mother would definitely say that. A lot of things have changed. And there's no going back. People have grown up. There have been things said and things done, including on my part. I'm not saying there hasn't. And it's difficult to mend fences, especially when, I guess if I was going to give an example, it's hard to mend a fence when the property has changed. It's hard. But getting back to what I was saying, it's hard for me to get through December. I feel every year like my grandfather is with me in spirit. I think of him. I think of how much I miss him. And I mean, I've lost my grandmother and my uncle as well. And my whole family is dysfunctional. There's no glue holding it together anymore. But I think of my grandfather, and I think of things that could have been, maybe not. And I think of my birthday, and I think of how alone I feel, and how we all get old, and we all have to accept that things are different for whatever reason that they are. And I do. I accept that. And at least with me being with Bobby, it's just like Thanksgiving. I'll cook. I'll fix him a holiday meal. I'll do the cleaning, and we'll eat, and it will pass. You know, it's just a day. I have my memories, and I know my grandfather is with me in spirit all the time, not just during the holidays. I accept that I've made a lot of mistakes in my life that I can't undo. And you just have to pick yourself up and keep moving forward. And now that I'm with Bobby and I have all these responsibilities on my shoulders, it gives me a purpose. It gives me something to focus on, I guess, in some way. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. I don't want to make this any longer because I have a tendency to talk and talk and talk. I'm sure I'm going to continue to update you for a little while, just because it'll be good for me to talk to everyone on here and get things off my chest, I guess. Bobby's not a good communicator, and it's difficult sometimes to talk to him. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to cut this off now, and I'll be back. So please keep listening, and thank you so much for listening to my podcasts, all of them, hopefully all of them. If you haven't heard all of them, please listen. You kind of can't know the end without the beginning. And the one that I just got done with before I started updating this one was the one where I told Bobby's story. So I appreciate everyone that's listening. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will respond.